So here we go. Wow, it pulls. Oh my God, it pulls hard above 6. My goodness gracious me. What? Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today is going to be an exciting one because I've got my good friend Mark's M2 CSL. And I know they didn't officially make an M2 CSL, but if they did, this would be very close to that. I'm going to get Mark on camera in 2 seconds to talk about exactly what has been done to his car, because there's a lot going on top of the skin and there's a lot going on underneath the skin. Then we're going to take it out on the Autobahn, test it properly because we're in Germany, why not? And then we'll take it to some twisty roads and see what it's like out there. This is my good friend Mark, or Schmark150 on social medias. I'm sure you recognise him. He's been on some videos with me, in fact, the most recent at Goodwood. Yeah. Mark has had quite a few interesting BMWs and Minis over the past, well, 10 years probably.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And this particular one, well, there's no getting away from the fact that it's very special, and it's not particularly subtle either, is it, Mark?
No, and not standard either. It's pretty much, yeah, full on.
Mark, let's start with the exterior of the car.
Yes.
Maybe let's talk about the livery,
yep,
and then some of the parts that people might not be able to see on camera,
yeah,
and not so obvious.
So first, let's start as what's underneath the, the Topaz Skin that we did on the car, the design. So there's a lot of carbon fiber, a lot of weight saving across the car. So first of all, at the front, we see the carbon bonnet, which is a Alpha N Performance carbon bonnet, which we fitted. Considerable weight saving on the front, and then we have a carbon roof, which was installed, and so we cut the original roof out and glued in a carbon roof. And then we have the carbon trunk, which is M Performance. So that is also Alpha N, and this is M Performance. And then at the front of the car, let's quickly walk there. You can see it. I fitted a front splitter, also M Performance, to make sure that the balance between the rear and the front on aerodynamics is proper. Side skirts as a Schnitzer. Didn't do those in carbon. And at the rear, then Akrapovic carbon fiber rear splitter diffuser.
Diffuser, yeah. So it's fair to say there's a fair amount of carbon on there.
Yep. And over the carbon, we did, and the bodywork, we did the Topaz Skin. And to explain really quickly what it is all about, you can check out the Topaz Detailing YouTube channel, where we really explained and showed you what we did with the process of this particular design.
Yep.
But Topaz Skin,
there'll be a link.
It's somewhere in the corner. Yeah. And the Topaz Skin is nothing other than a painted vinyl.
Right.
So what it does is initially you clean the bodywork, the initial paint of the car.
Yep.
It's still there. It's the original paint. It's still there with the lacquer, everything. But on top we painted a peelable layer, and on top of the peelable layer we painted the orange. And on top of the orange, we put the stickers, and then over the stickers, we put the lacquer.
Wow.
So all the stickers, if you would ever, and it's unfortunately not possible for the viewer, but every single sticker is like completely like flush.
Seamless, isn't it?
Yeah, seamless. You don't feel anything.
Yep.
And the stickers also give you a bit of an idea that they almost seem to be painted.
Yes.
Because of the lacquer layer that's on top.
Yeah.
Then over that, we did the black wrap.
Yep.
And then we did the final sticker. So if you would look at the original design of the homage 2002 concept Turbomeister, which was revealed many years ago, on which this design is based. And what I did is I compared both cars next to each other.
Yep.
And we measured every single spot on every single sticker on the concept, and then made it fit on the car here. So every single place where the stickers are on the sides, on the orange, on the matte black,
yep, are
exactly where they are also on the concept car.
So not only is it aesthetically very different, but as Mark talked about, we've got carbon bonnet, carbon roof, carbon boot, which saves a substantial amount of weight.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the complete weight saving once we finish the walk around, because it is impressive.
Yes.
Let's move on to the wheels, the brakes, the suspension. So what are we looking at here then, Mark?
So handling wise, BBS FIR wheels, which save around 20 kilos for all four. So every corner saves you 5 kilos of unsprung mass, which is quite extensive. Change the front brake kit. Some BMW users might know that the upgraded M Sport brake kit for the M2, the calipers are quite big, discs are quite big and they're quite close to the wheel. Sometimes stones get stuck between the caliper and the barrel of the rim and then damage the inside of the rim.
Yep.
And since the barrel is only 4 millimeters thicker on this rim, if you take out, you know, like a millimeter or a bit more, it impacts the integrity of the wheel. So then BBS suggests take another wheel and fit another wheel. So I was pretty much done with having 2 wheels broken, and these wheels are like 2,000 pounds, euros a piece. So I was like, nah, I'm not gonna have that again. So what I did is I made a smaller disc with a 6-spot caliper still. So I still have pretty much improved brake performance. You know, you can go better than this, but at least I have a smaller disc. And some people say smaller disc is less performance, but at this point I was like, yeah, I just don't want to have any more damaged rims. So I went for this setup. Saved me about 16-17 kilos on the front axle.
Yep.
And you will feel that later when you drive the car. It totally feels different right now, completely different.
And in terms of actual tyre size?
Same.
So it's
it's 4S's now, and
yep.
I can go Cup 2s and the feel would be even better. But for daily driving, what I do with the car mostly right now, I just wanted to keep the 4S's, and then later I can go Cup 2s if I want to.
Sure. Now that we've got the gorgeous carbon fibre bonnet up, before we talk about the engine, what is the suspension that this car's running?
So what I fitted is a AST 5100 suspension, and what this suspension does mostly to the car is makes the car on one hand more comfortable, more dailyable, but on the other hand also more capable when you take it into the corners. So you will feel when you're driving a more compliant ride. It gives you a better drive, and it really loads up because of the characteristic of the damper when you really go for the car. And if you want to drive calm, it's chill. If you want to drive spiritually, then it helps you as well. So really happy with that. And then next to that, in the engine bay, didn't change much. There's the Aventuri cold air intake.
Yeah, they're very familiar. Obviously, I've got some of them in my M2 competition as well.
Yeah, and for the rest, we did a tune. Runs around 500 horsepower, 600 newton meters of torque. I just don't want to have anything more. Anyone that owns these cars or this engine knows about the crank hub situation. So I don't want to start forcing, making it stronger and that sort of stuff.
Sure.
And then having that issue because it's quite an expensive repair bill. So I just kept the torque limited and also the horsepower limited, because I don't really want to have a high horsepower car. I just want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
It is both increasing performance and shedding weight, and in my opinion that is what CSL is all about. It's not about having 800 horsepower out of an engine like this.
No, well you don't want, even stock 400, they're pretty quick.
Yeah.
500 horsepower is all you need. You've only got 265 section rear tyres.
Yeah.
Any more than 500 horsepower, you're just going to be sliding all over the place.
Yep.
Okay, so that's fascinating. And then this is connected to a Akrapovic Exhaust.
Yes.
Which is a full system.
Yes.
And so do we have any cats in here?
No.
Do we have any OPF filters
No.
in here? Do we have a lot of sound coming out of here?
Yeah, ridiculously amount.
I say that sarcastically because I know how loud it is.
It's
because
mental.
Mark drove me over here. Okay, well I think we've covered everything on the outside of the car.
Yep.
Let's jump inside.
Yeah.
And have
Quickly.
a quick look in there.
Yep.
And then take it out on the road.
Yep.
Right, Mark, now we're inside this car and I can already see where you've got an Aron display up here that gives me all of my gauges. You've got a retrimmed steering wheel. You've got some nice paddles behind there. Who makes them?
Autotechnic.
Autotechnic, lovely. Yeah. I can see that the M1 and M2 buttons are red, a bit like the newer generations of M cars.
Yep.
So some really nice touches there. I can see also some extra carbon fibre around the gear stick, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest change for me, and some of you might have already picked up on it, is the seats and the driving position, because wow, I feel like I'm in my M3, which is the biggest compliment you can give any car. Yeah. So tell us about these seats, and am I sitting on normal brackets or what's the deal?
Now these are Recaro pole position seats.
Yep.
So I bought the base seat, had it reupholstered, so the stitching is the same as the rest. Stitching color, the rest of the car, Nappa leather.
You've got the M stripes in there.
Similar to the M4 GTS seat, only that seat is so expensive that I had them remade for pretty much half the price.
Yep.
And then we made this little compartment inside the seat that allows you to more easily find the buckle or the belt buckle.
Yeah, sure. For those of you that don't know, when you've got bucket seats, it's usually very difficult to engage the belt, but on these you've actually got the buckle down there, and it's very easy, and it doesn't dig into you either, so yeah, very nice. But the driving position, Mark, how come I'm sitting so low? Because I know if you just put pole positions on their regular brackets, it's a very similar driving position to a standard seat, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a touch lower. These are even a touch lower than that. These are breakkousen, and you can adjust them. And there are other solutions as well, you know, to really go a lot lower. I think you still need to go a touch lower.
Yep, well maybe with I think for road driving this is good, but with a helmet, well, I would still, I'd get away with it, but a bit lower would be even good.
You need the lowest brackets that is in the market available, and and then you really have a good position in the car. And I think this seat really works for you.
Well, that's it, and hopefully most of you guys and girls watching know that this is exactly one of the main things that I want on my car is seats like these, pole positions, and a lower driving position. So maybe the lightweight lowering brackets or something would be perfect for my car. Cool. Well, I think we need to get it out on the road now because it's actually quite hot in here without the aircon on. Let's take it out, hit the Autobahn, and see what it's like on the road. Right then guys, here we are on the Autobahn. This is actually a restricted 120 limit section, which is quite common these days on the Autobahn, but we're heading to a de-restricted section. But it's probably a good time to talk about my initial impressions in this car. The first thing I can feel is the suspension. A bit like that Team Sherma M2 that I had recently. It's amazing how fluid everything feels. I haven't had a chance to properly load it up in any corners yet, but I can feel the front end is just amazing, and the way it floats over the surface. You can hear a lot more mechanical sounds coming from under the bonnet essentially. It's a coilover thing, isn't it? Especially with top mounts and stuff, and the fact you've got a carbon bonnet almost amplifies that sound a bit more.
Yeah, it does.
But ironically, I notice that more as a passenger than when I'm behind the wheel. Behind the wheel, I just feel really tuned into this car. Now, we know it's got roughly 500 horsepower, but being a CSL, we've already talked about the fact that you've done some weight saving, which is so important for any driver's car. It's something that manufacturers, I wish, would focus on more than just giving power. So what are we talking about in terms of weight saving on this car in total, Mark?
So right now, as we're driving it, it's roughly around 90 kilos. So with all the carbon bits, you know, the wheels, the brake kit, you know, the seats.
Yep.
Initially I had like a lithium lightweight battery in the back. It's an additionally 20-25 kilos.
Wow.
But it's not easy to live with on a daily basis. So I just took it out again, put the original battery back. Yep. And there's something to say about taking a lot of weight out of the rear of the car. You know, you would like to have some weight on the rear axle on this car.
Impressive from a modern car that still effectively has rear seats as well, and all of the creature comforts. You've still got aircon and everything in here.
Radio, everything is still in there. So I didn't take anything out of the interior other than the seats.
Yeah, well that's massively impressive, and I'm sure we're going to feel that once we get to a de-restricted bit. So here we go. Wow, it pulls. Oh my God, it pulls hard above 6. My goodness gracious me. What? Oh! Well, that was 260 odd, and wow, it pulls hard above 6,000 RPM, Mark.
Amazing, eh?
Jeez.
That's the 500 horsepower one.
Yeah, I think this is the best chance we're going to get. It's 260, 270, 280. Wow.
It's amazing, eh?
Oh, I just had a big rush to the head then, Mark. Oh, well, I think I saw 283, 284. So, like I mean, that's not bad. I think that's over 180 miles an hour. Yeah. Considering the space we had to do it in, In an ideal world, I'm in no doubt that this could do 300, probably not much more than about 300. Just so you can feel the aero and you can feel it being pulled back. Obviously we got extra aero on the boot with that with the little lip and the splitter and stuff. And this car, let's face it, isn't about straight line pace.
No.
You could go crazy and put 600-700 horsepower if you wanted to in it, but wow, that's quick, that's impressive, and it certainly sent a bit of a shiver down my spine. Because especially when you come to hit the brakes, you know, you forget that you're closing on cars in front of you at sometimes like 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So it's the equivalent of stopping from 100 miles an hour to nothing. Yeah. So you've always got to be very aware of what's going on. But that was awesome. Let's go and find a quick twisty road.
Yep.
And then I'll give you the keys back to your car with absolutely no fuel in it, obviously.
Anyhow, yeah, this was for me the fastest I've gone in my car as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
No. Oh, brilliant. Yes, Mark. Was that scary?
No. I think we're going to do 300, but
Yeah.
we need a Sunday morning.
Yeah, of course. Right, I'm now alone in Mark's car on a reasonable road. It's not amazing and there's not many twisties here. The reason I'm alone is, well, Mark pointed out that we'd suggested there's 70-80 kilos of weight saving in the car, and that's exactly what he weighs. So with both of us on board, it wasn't really demonstrating that. So he's jumped out to make the car feel a little bit more alive. I've noticed that at slower speeds, you do hear and feel the suspension a little bit. A bit like, again, with that M2 Competition Team Sherma, the Swift Performance one that I had on the channel recently. Just like that, you do feel the little niggles at slower speed. And that's because most of these coilover setups are designed to work really well once you're in the travel, i.e. once you're pushing the car a little bit more than pootling around town like I am at the moment. They're at their least happiest at these sort of speeds, although the tarmac here now is just, well, perfection. You'd never get tarmac like that in the UK. In terms of sound, so exhaust sound that is, well, this is with the valves closed and inefficient. It's actually quieter than my car, I think, like that. But then when you hit it up, you put it into Sport Plus and the valves open, it's just a completely different level. It really, really is. When you accelerate, you can feel the car sit into its travel really nicely. In fact, just coming through here, the whole car seems like it feels so flat and so lovely. The way it rode that little bump there, you can just tell that if you started pushing this hard on a good road or on the track, it would deal with all the ripples and bumps really well, and that's what unsettles a stock car like my M2 Competition. That's what upsets that when you're near the limit and you do hit a bump, or it just all becomes too much for the stock suspension, and then you have to back off before you end up in a gravel trap. This car just feels so good, and I'd love to be able to push it harder somewhere. It's a really good taster though for what's to come in my car. This has got me very excited about, one, putting a decent suspension setup in my car, and two, well, these seats, and more importantly, this driving position. I mean, it just feels great. And this has a visor, just like that Swift Performance car, but because I'm sitting so much lower, I don't have any issues with that visor. I'm looking right through the center of the windscreen, which is very unusual for me. Not so unusual in my M3, obviously. Oh, what a car. I'm such a child. Tuned M2 competitions, or sorry Mark, M2 CSLs bring the child out in me 100%. But hey, you only live once. In terms of negatives, a bit like that M2 competition I had on recently, I would say that at slower speeds, around town, etc., the suspension, although it is not too stiff, it's just a bit rattly and noisy, and I think that would annoy me if this was my daily. Other slight negatives, well, I'm not the biggest fan of Mark's wheel here. I think it's more form over function. As you know, I prefer a thinner rim, but everyone has their different preferences, so fair play. I'm not the biggest fan of the red M1 and M2 buttons, and I love the design on the outside. I think it looks absolutely mega, but it's not my cup of tea. I'm more fly under the radar type of person with my M2 at least, and I think, yeah, this is just a bit too much for me. But what it represents with this car, I totally get it, and I think what Mark has done with this car is unreal. The passion and time and effort that he's put into it is second to none, really. The long phone calls and text messages, WhatsApp messages we've had between each other over the past couple of years about this car and the various stages and elements have just been unreal. So it's a real build of passion, and I absolutely love it. I think it's a brilliant bit of kit, and it's got to be one of the most extreme and different M2s out there. It really has. Mark, thanks so much for throwing the keys to me for this car, and thanks so much for helping me film today. It's been awesome, and I've really enjoyed my time in this car. Guys, make sure you give Mark a follow on Instagram. I'll put it below in the description, and yeah, check out his other projects. He's got a crazy Mini as well. Thanks a lot for watching as always, guys, and I will see you at the next video very soon. Cheers. Wow, that doesn't get old. That does not get old.